Hello. So it's a bit hot, despite me wearing this. I put this on for recording this video purposes. No advertising required. Yeah, so I've just got back from a short walk, an exploratory walk, a walk that let me enjoy and embrace the lovely weather that we're now having, and to explore an area local to me that, I don't know, was always had, for me in particular, a bit of a urban myth about it. So to begin with, I'm in Borstal, part of Medway, right next to the Medway of Rochester Bridge. There are going to be some photos appearing that I've taken on my little adventure, my little walk. But to begin with, let's talk about Borstal. Now, I grew up in Essex, and in the late 70s, early 80s, even up until today, Borstal, as a child in particular, had a nasty reputation. Probably completely unfounded, but it had this mythical, dark legend about it. So if you've seen Scum with Ray Winston, it's very much the myth of what Borstal was, as this school or juvenile detention centre for wayward youths, shall we say. It was always that sort of, if you get expelled, you get sent to Borstal. I mean, even, I guess, in the 90s, early noughties, there was a dog TV show called Dog Borstal. And this is the myth Borstal has about it, because the show Dog Borstal was for dogs that couldn't be controlled by their owners. So the Dog Borstal was where the dogs went to have these expert trainers basically subdue the dogs and make them obedient. So this is the myth around Borstal. So I've lived in Kent some 10-12 years now, and living so close to Borstal, I've always had a bit of a internal chuckle about it. It's just that sort of, who would have thought that I would have ever ended up living next door to Borstal, or even working there. So today, obviously, I've had the opportunity to have a little exploration, and this myth about Borstal is utterly unfair. I mean, it's in a niche location. It's quite charming. This almost feels like it's got one foot in the past. I mean, just follow the Medway north, and you get to Rochester Castle, Rochester Cathedral. You've got the river, you've got the Medway Bridge, which I've walked under, which was quite interesting to see. Alarming to hear the traffic going over the bridge, being underneath it, and hearing the echoes, and sort of seeing the underbelly of the beast, as it were. And the public footpath that I've just sort of walked along, I mean, I had to kind of discover it following my own nose, really. And it's just like, well, this is a footpath that probably doesn't get a lot of footfall on it, which is a shame, because it is a really nice area. And really, my exploration ended going past the small marina and finding this really pleasant little park where I was then able to have a breather, take a little video that'll probably be at the start or the end of this video, I don't know, and just taking the air, taking the sounds. So really, Borstal is utterly betrayed by this myth that is presented and deserves better, really. Oh, anyway, that's one part of this video. The other part is just sort of, I realised with my video this morning talking about Jera, the rune Jera, that I kind of made some conclusions or was asking myself some questions that even as I finished making the video, just like I've got other answers to it. I've got sort of, there is no other rune other than Kenaz, because Kenaz is reversed on Jera. And it's really, I feel I wasn't hitting the nail on the head. I was hitting around the nail with sort of theories or just sort of what these two runes in particular represent to each other, and in addition what they represent or direct even or instruct. One line of thinking is, with some of my previous experiences, is I haven't felt that there is a justification to think too much about runes in reverse, because I try to see the runes as 3D sort of, or no, that's not quite right. In some of the visualizations I've had of the runes, with them floating almost in like a well or a space where they exist as their power, but as they float almost like in space, shall we say, what they are, their rune, whichever way you're looking at them. It's the contact you make with them that's more important. How you work with that power, the power of any particular rune, is more important than if it's as it should be read or if it appears reversed. And obviously with Jera, it has Kenaz on it. And that was one of my lines of thinking, is this is a rune that has another rune on it, but it also has that rune and that rune reversed. And obviously there's sort of, that's my Jera rune. There you go, brilliant representation. Why isn't Kenaz reversed its own rune? Unless that's an instruction that the runes can be reversed. Or is Kenaz reversed, i.e. darkness, with Kenaz being a torch, it being reversed being darkness? Well, darkness, to me, a natural conclusion to that is the blank rune. As a theory, I'm not saying it is, I'm just exploring lines of thought. Because when you go back to Jera, it's light and darkness, yin and yang, balance, light and dark. And light is illumination, darkness is nothing. But there's still that argument that it has Kenaz in reverse. No other runes appear reversed. So that leads to a lot of possibilities to consider, to offer, and to dwell on, to think about. at this moment in time, I don't really have an answer for that. And now it seems sort of, I've been patiently waiting, as seems to be the instruction with Jera. And now, in some regards, it feels like I'm running out of time, because I'll be picking a new rune tomorrow. And yet, perhaps that in itself is a test. I might have something more to say come tomorrow, once I hit perhaps a dream state tonight, or have a further experience to question what Jera represents. All of a sudden, Jera feels like it's perhaps the most important of the runes. I don't know. Again, this is the path I'm on. Not all the answers are there. I've got to discover the answers. I've got to discover the questions sometimes. And as said in my earlier video, it brings you back to the Havamal and the questions Odin poses to the reader of the Havamal when it comes to the runes. It's not just a simple, straightforward, there it is. Let's not forget, Odin had to sacrifice himself to himself and hung on Yggdrasil for 9 days and 9 nights to gain the power of the runes. And I don't presume that I don't have any level of understanding that comes close to that, or that any of us can. I mean, that's a big ask, I think, or certainly a sizable challenge. And I certainly wouldn't pit my runecraft against the runecraft of the Aesir or the Vanir, because I'm lesser than they are. But Jera has asked these questions of me, or it's put these dilemmas before me, and it's nice to have that challenge and to consider what the rune may represent. As I put in the notes for my last video, it could almost be the representation of the creation of Ymir. You've got lands of fire and ice and a massive space in between it. You've got this space between fire and ice, or light and darkness, and in between this yawning chasm. And from it, well, if you've read your Poetic Edda, you'll know. That again draws me to, is Jera perhaps the most important of the runes? There's a lot to consider, and I don't know, I am happy and willing to listen to alternate ideas, suggestions, and what experiences people have had with it. So if you've watched this video as well as my other one, thank you very much, and I'll see you soon. Take care. Goodbye.